She hits you with, "You never listen to me." And you're thinking, "What are you talking about? I heard everything you just said. I could repeat it back word for word." So you tell her that. You prove you were listening by reciting what she said. And somehow that makes her more upset, not less. Now you're completely lost. You did listen. You can prove it. So why is she still saying you don't? Let me explain what's actually happening here, because this is one of the most common disconnects in marriage, and it drives men crazy. When your wife says, "You never listen," she's not talking about your ears. Your ears work fine. She's saying something completely different that has nothing to do with whether you heard the words. She's saying, "You heard my words, but you're not hearing me." I know that sounds like the same thing. It's not. Hearing the words means the information went into your brain. Hearing her means you understood what she was really trying to communicate underneath those words. Think of it like this. She tells you about her day. You heard every fact, who said what happened when, all the details. But you missed how she felt about it. You caught the story, but missed the emotion. That's what "you never listen" means. You're getting the facts, but missing her. Let me give you a concrete example so this makes sense. She comes home and says, "My boss totally dismissed my idea in the meeting today." You heard those words. So you respond with, "What was the idea? Maybe you can bring it up again tomorrow." You think you're being helpful. You're problem solving based on what she said. But she gets frustrated because you just proved her point. You didn't listen. Here's why. She wasn't telling you about the meeting to get solutions. She was telling you because she felt dismissed and wanted you to acknowledge that feeling. You heard, "Boss dismissed my idea," and responded to the facts. She needed you to hear, "I feel disrespected and I'm upset about it," and respond to that. When you jumped to solutions without acknowledging how it made her feel, you showed her you heard the words, but you didn't hear her. This is what drives husbands insane. You're listening. You're paying attention. You can repeat back exactly what she said, but she's still upset because listening to the words isn't the same as listening to what she needs you to understand. So what does it mean to actually listen in the way she needs? It means paying attention to the emotion behind the words, not just the words themselves. It means noticing whether she's frustrated, hurt, overwhelmed, or excited, and responding to that feeling first before you respond to the facts. When she tells you about her boss dismissing her idea, instead of jumping to, "What was the idea?" try, "That sounds really frustrating. Being dismissed in front of everyone would upset me too." Same information from her. Completely different response from you. This response shows you heard how she felt, not just what happened. That's what she means by listening. Here's another way this shows up. She's telling you something, and while she's talking, you're already formulating your response. Maybe you're thinking about advice you want to give. Maybe you're thinking about a similar story from your life. You're hearing the words, but you're not fully present with what she's saying because you're half focused on what you're going to say next. She can feel that. Even if you can repeat back what she said, she knows you weren't fully there. You were waiting for your turn to talk, not actually absorbing what she was sharing. That's another version of "you never listen." So what does full listening look like? You're not just hearing words, you're paying attention to her tone, her body language, whether she seems stressed or relieved or hurt. You're noticing what emotions are coming through while she talks. And you're not planning your response while she's still talking. You're staying present with what she's saying until she's actually done. Then, and only then, you respond. And your response acknowledges what you picked up on emotionally, not just what you heard factually. Let me walk you through what this looks like in practice. She says, "I had the worst day. Everything went wrong at work. Then I got stuck in traffic. And when I got home, the kids were fighting." Old listening, just hearing words. "Did you figure out the work thing? What was the traffic from?" New listening, hearing her. "Sounds like today was completely overwhelming. No wonder you're exhausted." See the difference? The old version treats it like an information exchange. The new version acknowledges what she actually needed you to understand. That today was a lot, and she's maxed out. Now here's what makes this so confusing for men. In your world, at work, with friends, in most situations, listening means getting the information. Someone tells you something, you process the data, you respond to the content. That works fine in most of your life. But it doesn't work with your wife. With her, listening means connecting emotionally, not just processing information. And because that's not how you're wired to listen, you genuinely don't realize you're missing anything. You heard all the words. From your perspective, you listened. But from her perspective, you completely missed the point. Here's something else that happens. Sometimes when she says you never listen, she doesn't mean this specific conversation. She means there's a pattern where you hear the facts but miss what she's trying to tell you. So you defending yourself with "I'm listening right now" doesn't address what she's actually saying. She's talking about an ongoing dynamic, not just this one moment. The fix? Stop defending that you're listening and start actually showing her you hear what matters to her. Next time she starts talking, put your phone down. Stop what you're doing. Look at her. Pay attention not just to what she's saying, but to how she's feeling while she says it. When she's done, don't immediately respond with advice or your own story. First, acknowledge the emotion. That sounds really hard, or I can see why that upset you, or you seem really stressed about this. That acknowledgement, that's what tells her you actually heard her, not just the words. Here's what not to do when she says you never listen. Don't get defensive and list all the times you have listened. That just proves you're more concerned with being right than understanding what she's trying to tell you. Don't say, "I just repeated back everything you said. How is that not listening?" Because now you're arguing about the definition of listening instead of addressing her actual need. Don't pull out your phone or keep doing whatever you were doing while saying, "I'm listening." If you're not giving her your full attention, you're not listening in the way that matters to her. And don't interrupt her to prove you're following along. Let her finish before you respond. Interrupting shows you're more focused on showing you get it than actually getting it. One more thing that matters here. Sometimes "you never listen" is code for "I don't feel important to you right now." It's not really about whether your ears are working. It's about whether she feels like she matters enough for you to stop and actually be present with her. When you hear "you never listen" instead of defending yourself, try this. "You're right. I'm not giving you my full attention. Let me stop what I'm doing and really hear this." That response completely changes the conversation. You're not arguing about whether you were listening. You're showing her that she matters more than whatever else you were focused on. Here's the bottom line. "You never listen" isn't an accusation about your hearing. It's feedback about your presence. She needs you to hear not just the facts of what she's saying, but the feelings underneath. She needs you to be fully there, not half there, while you plan your response. She needs you to acknowledge what she's experiencing emotionally before you jump to solutions or opinions. When you do that, "you never listen" turns into "thank you for hearing me." Not because you suddenly developed better ears, because you started paying attention to what she actually needed you to understand. Comment below. Does your wife ever tell you that you don't listen even when you know you heard her? How do you usually respond? If you want more help with this, grab the ebook. Links in the first comment or my bio.